Come on, let's take a little walk through the neighborhood and see who we meet. Oh, who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood, in your neighborhood. Say, who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet each day.
My job is just to get Alan talking, and then I'm going to get out of the way. Alan, I guess first question, just to kind of get us going, tell us about kind of your interest into art. When did it start, and how did it start?
On exhibit out in the foyer are two paintings that I did when I was 9 years old. A pheasant and one of a deer. And that was the beginning. I was 9 years old, fourth grade. I progressed to Miss Ross, who was our sixth grade teacher. Her real claim to fame was that she was also the teacher of the great guitarist from Waukesha. You all know who he is?
Oh, yeah.
Say his name.
Les Paul.
Les Paul, right. And so Les Paul, and then she had me do a tiger coming through the weeds, and all of a sudden the painting was gone. And she said she sent it to France for a international child's art show. Never got it back. Did get a little ribbon. I have no idea where the ribbon is now, but it was sort of an impetus. But the real cog that really helped me was Raleigh Schrupp, my high school art instructor. I did not have the best of life as a youngster. And I'll leave that there and let your imagination run, and then you could add something to it. But Raleigh was my mentor. And he saw to it that I was available to go to the Chicago as a freshman in high school and stay overnight and visit all the art galleries on Rush Street and the Arts Center. And he was just there. And he was there when I retired the first time from Mapledale School in 1999. He came to my retirement at that time. And but then I went 14 more years at UWM. So that's where we got started.
Yeah. So I would I've got 9-year-old and girls at home, and their artwork looks nothing like yours, Al. So when did you, I don't know, start to realize that you maybe had a passion, not just a passion, but maybe a gift that you were excelling over your peers at art?
Really wasn't anything great. It was an escape from my dad.
Yeah.
It was an escape. He left me alone if I was dabbling. That was his word, dabbling. But there is one thing we should talk about, and that's the painting in back.
Yeah, talk about the painting.
You're going to have to get up and show the people.
Okay.
When I started at UWM, I couldn't afford canvas. And so I asked the professor if I could use burlap bags. And he said, I don't know about that. It's got all that writing. And I said, well, I'll wash them 5 or 6 times, and I'll build my own frame. You'll have to show them the back.
Flip it around here.
Yeah.
That's burlap. Oh, my word.
And I built my own frame. I worked for a sign company, and so I knew how to get nice square corners because of the signs we built. And then I painted. I didn't have much paint, and the base paint is house paint. And the reason that never has sold is that little by little, like most houses, that's what's happening to the painting. It's flaking.
Oh.
But So and von Neumann was the instructor, and he said, well, if you can fix it so that the color does not come through the paint, he said, we'll go. And so I had 10 burlap bags, washed them, finally got rid of most of the color, and I made the paintings. 10 paintings were enough. We had to have 4 paintings at the end of each week, and then 1 painting that you did during the week while the professor was there. And so I blocked out there. I don't know how many paintings are underneath this, but there's quite a few.
So you washed them or did over?
I blocked out the paintings, so I don't know what's
Yeah.
underneath that.
Okay.
I'm sure it's something priceless.
Well, I don't like. I was thinking about you talked a little bit about escaping your dad. Like when you do your paintings, are there certain emotions that I don't know that you feel or that you experience while you're painting that has kind of drawn you to that?
Yes and no. You every time you start a painting, it's like you've never done it before. Anybody who's done any painting has that feeling. You're starting again for the first time. So there is that anticipation. Subject matter, anything. In my sculpture, there's a couple of social commentaries. There's fantasy, like a jester riding a rooster. There's a jester, a little elf man on top of a toadstool from a poem that it's a large sculpture, 350 pounds of bronze in front of the Mequon Library. And it's from a poem. I met a little elf man once down where the lilies blow. He asked me why I was so small and why didn't you grow? He looked me through and through, said he, I'm just as big for me as big as for you. So that was the impetus. So poetry, music, scenery, that's where I go.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I get political, which we won't today. But I do get political, and several people have the political paintings in their home because we were of the same gender.
You want the microphone a little bit closer? Okay. Okay. So, well, let's talk about high school, and then you graduated. You did the service. You came back. I don't know. Talk a little bit about that. Kind of your beginning your career into art and how that.
I started as I went to the Army 4 days after I graduated from college, and when I got out, there were no teaching jobs, but they assigned me the artist for MPS, went on television for the first time that year. And I was the artist for 5 teachers from elementary up through high school. And then at the end of that spring, they said, well, you have to make a decision. Do you want to be an art teacher, or do you want to change your classification and be the artist for television? I wanted to be a teacher. So I went to Kosciuszko. That's how you say the name. You sneeze it out. Kosciuszko. And I taught there for 4 years. Then I went to South Division because some of my Kosciuszko students went to South. So I kind of followed them because they were good. And had a terrible principal. Just terrible. And so I came home and I said to Susie, I think I'm going to take that job or apply for the job at Mapledale. Where is the application? She said, I just threw it away. So we got it out of the basket and we ironed it. And I sent it and I got the job and I stayed there for 35 years and retired in 1999. And then I went to UWM for another 14 years. I'd have stayed there until it was 80. But the computers did me in.
Well, a lot of, I think Sarah mentioned around here we know a lot of your paintings. Like this is an Al Caucutt, right? The beauty shop features a lot of Al Caucutt's, the chalkboard. But you talked about in graduate school kind of being forced to experiment and then falling in love with a different type of art. So talk a little bit about that.
I'm working on my master's, one semester away from getting it. And George Gundy, who was my professor, said, you haven't taken a sculpture class yet. You're not going to get your degree until you take a sculpture class. Sign me up. So I signed up and he said, I'm going to set you up with oxyacetylene. And I stayed with that until 1999. And when I finally decided it was not safe to weld in the basement of the house. And that's when I was introduced to wax. And I modeled in wax. All the sculptures that are out there on the table were modeled in wax. They were cast just to make it simpler. I'm going to call it plaster, but it was a different type of material. And they made images in the plaster. And then when the plaster was cured, about 2 to 3 weeks, they burn out the wax and it melts. And you have a cavity, an emptiness. And then that is cast with bronze. Very intense. It's one of the oldest metals in the world. In fact, in the history books, they called it the Bronze Age. And that's still done basically in that process where you invest it in the wax, you melt the wax, you have a cavity, and you fill it up with bronze.
Like, how long does that process take, Al? So, it takes, you work on a piece, you finish it, you send it away. How long does that take?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 months, depending how many you can get duplicates of it. The ones out there are no duplicates. One of a kind. I'm an old-fashioned artist. One of a kind. This is it. There's nobody else getting one like it. Except the family. They get a Christmas cast. That's where I have the multiples. But it takes anywhere from a month and a half to sometimes 3 or 4 months. You have to be very careful of the underhang. If you have a figure, the underhang is the chin, the nose, the arm, if it's away from the body. Those are all underhangs, and so you have to do a special casting of that section. There's a sculpture out there that's in front of the Mequon Library that had 43 castings in sections of the jester, the little elf man, sitting on that mushroom. The larger the piece, the more sections. There's another casting of another Lutheran church. That should make you feel good. In fact, the Lutheran churches are the ones who have supported me for quite some time. But anyways, it's a bunch of fish, and it's Peter, the fisher of men. And one of the fish is very small because he also fished for children. That's my interpretation. And so there is this little fish in there represents the children.
And you talked a little bit about some of your inspirations being biblical, political, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of Greek mythology was another one.
Yes.
Were there other ones that we talked about? You know, places
Well-
you would get kind of inspiration or,
Well, nature.
yeah, nature.
Walks in the woods were secondary to our life together. Leaves, plants, they're very important. In fact, I didn't bring the piece because I didn't want to embarrass anybody. Greek mythology, Zeus had a daughter, and she fell in love with Mercury. And Zeus says, "You're not going to marry him. He's one of my best warriors, and I can't afford to have him be waylaid by a beautiful lady." And she said, "Oh, yes." And so she started to run to Zeus, and Zeus zaps her and turns her to a tree. And so she's half female and half tree. That piece, if you'd like to see it, stop and see. But it's not for the faint of heart. She's naked.
Yeah,
The pastor was there, and he didn't blush.
no more than I am now. Ginny, do you have some?
Pastor Nick was going to be here today, but
Yeah.
I know him, and I told him, you better start saving up for your little
Yeah.
girl's wedding.
Yeah, talking about weddings. Yeah, I've got some
Yeah,
young ladies.
great.
Hopefully, they don't get zapped and turned into trees. Now, Al, you've won several different awards throughout your lifetime. You talked about teachers submitting your works, state fair competitions. I don't know if you're comfortable sharing about some of the different awards you won, and then maybe we have some pieces that you've.
When I was young, the group of artists I hung with, we said that we really were doing our artwork for each other. That was because we weren't selling. But anyways, in 1967 or so, I won first place, and there were 3 art fairs or art competitions that were important to the young artists in Wisconsin. The Lakefront, of which I was one of the 10 original artists, the State Fair Professional Division, and the Salon up in Madison. The Salon was the creme de la creme. You got into that show, you were almost assured you were going to make it. And I made it the 3 years I entered it. But in 1967, Tower of Babel, which squeaks like a Tower of Babel when you turn it. It's just short of 7 feet tall. It won the first place. And a medical doctor from New York purchased it, and it's someplace in New York. But that was the first one. The picture of it is the one that has 2 sides of it. I don't know if it's along the side.
I was
or,
trying to look. I don't know if it's out in the lobby.
it might
or
be
if
in the
it's out-
lobby or
Do you
over
see it,
there.
Brent? It's kind of on the wall there.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
which
The
one?
Tower of Babel. Yeah.
A few more.
You gotta go down more.
Yeah.
But
So you said it
anyway,
was like 7 feet tall.
just shy of 7 feet,
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
and you turned. Yeah. It's not anything you can find at the store. You're not going to rush to an art show to buy it. But it was my Tower of Babel. And it babbled when you turned it. And I had to stop welding because it was getting too heavy for me to carry it up from the basement where I was welding illegally.
It's only illegal if you get caught.
Yes.
And then over here we've got this is a few of my favorite things, right?
Yes.
I mean, it makes me think of The Sound of Music, but
It's a play on the word, The Sound of Music. These are a few of my favorite things. Frogs, jesters, trees, leaves, wheels. There's a sun in there. I like the sun. I like to do that in lots of different pieces. In fact, there's two suns in this one, upper right-hand corner and the lower left-hand corner. And of course, jesters, mushrooms, love mushrooms. In fact, one of the pieces that got in the art show at the state fair and one of the two first places that they ever gave at that time was mushrooms. And I have strict orders from home not to let it out, because if it falls, the base is very, very special concrete, and I wouldn't know where to buy it anymore to repair it. So,
Alan?
yes, that's it.
You can hold it up.
Yeah. That's the mushrooms.
Oh, yes.
do you want me to hold it for you?
I have tremors.
Yeah.
So my art has changed. I don't get detailed anymore. I can do lots of scrubbing. They call that scrubbing with a brush. You can't be real detailed like my artist friend is, Barb.
So Al, when I think about you, I think about a couple different things. So one is Susan. I would be interested to know how did Susan influence your art, or how did she tolerate it, or how did she advocate for it, or
Tolerate, good word. She was my best critic. She was very critical. She didn't think of anything coming down, and I had only worked maybe 2 hours on the sculpture, and she'd say the legs are too thin, or the arm is too short, the head is too big. You got to do something with it, put some meat on it. But she was my critic, and anything when it was done, she would say, put a good price on that one. So she was the one in charge of the money, and so if I had a price on it before an art fair or an art show, she'd say, I'm going to redo the pricing for you. So she did that.
yeah.
But she was very influential, as was my son. I gave a talk at UWM one evening, and Susie had to go someplace. And so I had my son. He was about 4 years old. He had a beautiful set of markers, maybe 50 to 60 different colors. And he started to do his racing cars. Not a peep out of them. I'm 3/4 of the way through my talk, and the professor said, let me interrupt Alan. She said, you notice he has his little son with him, but you've got to see what he's done. And she picked up his work and she showed it to the class. It wasn't a coloring book. It was a piece of white paper and his idea. Coloring books had no place in our home. Lots of paper, lots of markers. In fact, every once in a while when I'm going through the filing cabinet, Johnny, I come across one of your drawings.
You also shared I can't remember if you told me I could talk about this or not, but working with the anvil in the basement, and I don't know how that language.
John is shaking his head. Johnny he was very young and he said words.
When we're young, we absorb, we learn
That's
words,
right.
right? Yeah.
So I'm down in the basement with an anvil and a hammer, and you know if you hit it too hard, it comes back pretty fast. You got to duck, or you're going to have a hammer in your nose. So every once in a while, I'd miss and I swore. Really swore. Really bad. And for a week or two, we couldn't figure out what Johnny was saying. All of a sudden, she caught what he was saying. She says, "Come up here." So I had to come upstairs. What happened? I now know what he said. Listen carefully. I didn't swear anymore after that.
Yeah, but you still woke us up at 7:30 in the morning with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that did wake him up.
Yeah. So, I think about you and Susie, and then I also think about teaching. I think about you as an artist, as a teacher. Talk a little bit about teaching and, I don't know, your love for that a little bit. Because you stuck with it for how?
55 years.
Yeah.
Active art teacher. Designed the art rooms, plural, at Mapledale. Our curriculum was the only curriculum in this highfalutin middle school that was accepted by the state. I'm very proud of that. Because it was really a task to get accepted and to not have the math program or the English program, but the art program. That was, and it was great. And when I went to UWM, Susie said, Caucutt is doing his debriefing because I taught future K-8 teachers, and it was debriefing my years of teaching in the public schools. So,
And I don't know if this is a fair question, but do you feel like you're more proud of your art? Do you feel like you're more proud of your teaching? Have you thought about that?
no, I'm just happy with the life that I've
Yeah.
had.
Kind of
And
combining the two.
I'm happy here. This was Susie's choice. Her aunt was here. Some of you probably might remember working with her. But this was home. Very nice. Convenient for the family, which is my son and grandchildren. Very, very nice. And I'm sure there are lots of people here that would concur with that.
Yeah.
This guy, though, we gotta watch him. He's very good.
Well, should we talk about the tree here? I'll
Oh,
bring up
yes,
the tree up.
yeah.
And I know we wanted to spot like this. This is from one of your students, right?
Yes.
So just talk a little bit about, it's Bruce.
Bruce
Bruce's work.
Gendelman was one of my students, 4th through 8th grade. When he was in 6th grade, he did a creative stitchery. Yes, a boy did stitching. All different pieces of cloth, of a rooster. It was magnificent. I mean, I couldn't even have done a rooster that well. And there was an art exhibit at the Mexico Olympics. And I talked to him, talked with your mother. She came and we talked about if the art piece is accepted, chances are he won't get it back. She said, of course we'll send it. It's going to win an award. And she took a lot of pictures, lots of pictures. And of course it got accepted. It was the only middle school student's work. This man did this tree from the United States to have it accepted. And you talk about button busting, that was the teacher. But really, I never touched a child's work. Whatever they did, they did. Coloring books were not acceptable. And they were them. They could chew gum. They could eat candy. They could drink their water, or they could drink their soda. But they couldn't take the gum and put it underneath the chair, the table. Now, 35 years at Mapledale School, the janitors appear in my classroom and they start turning the chairs over and they hand me a spatula and they say, you're going to clean the bottom of all the gum on the bottom of the tables. No gum at all. None at all. So that says something to the teachers. You can have rules up the gazoo, and you're going to have problems up the gazoo too. But you know, if you let them be children, oh, they just flourish. So
Yeah.
this man owns an insurance company, doesn't take $75,000 or less. It has to be more. When he turned 60 years old, he turned the business over to his son, and he starts to do artwork. And the tree was his love. This tree is 27 feet tall. When it is complete in another month or so, it'll have 5,000 little butterflies that wiggle in the breeze. And it's at a place like Shorehaven. And it's a seating area around the tree. And the people there down in Florida, I have the joy of seeing this man's work. It cost $1.4 million. He didn't pay for it all, but he got it started. And they had a big fundraisers. And he's just fantastic. He's had artwork in Germany, France, Paris. I've only had artwork in Switzerland, France, and England. But I got work in 33 different states. And I've won enough awards that I keep them away. I don't bring them out. I don't have an ego with my art. I just do it. Just do it. And I would tell the kids that, and I would tell the adults that when I taught the adult class. Just do it. Think your thought, draw your think. So, this man is really a gift to every teacher that had him. But I kind of claim him because of the tree. Yeah.
And you were telling me Bruce is Jewish, and the butterflies are kind of representative of his...
the children of Dachau. Yeah. He 5,000 butterflies when he's finished, representing 5,000 children. So those of you who have, this is a preach, I'm sorry.
No, it's a preach away.
If you have problems with the Jewish people, think twice. They're just like us. Mm-hmm. They put their pants, their skirts, they comb their hair, just like us. They are us. So he's an inspiration. I would love to be in a cricket, to be there when they unveil it in January, next year, January, to hear the comments that the people make about the tree. Because it's something they'll get to see every day. So.
We've talked about some of the like the advocates and the inspirations, the people that really supported you. We didn't talk about Don. Don, do you want to talk about Don at all?
Don Kemp.
Don Kemp, yeah. Or others.
Don Kemp was about 5 or 6 years older than me, graduate from Carroll College. And I got permission to have all my classes in the morning, like all of the athletes. But I took off to work at Don's sign shop. And he not only became my boss, but he was a friend. And I didn't have much money when I went to school. And I got a $600 tax return from my dad, and from the government, my dad used that to buy a car. So I didn't have much money to get back to school when I was a junior. And I talked to Don and I said, could you give me a loan? He gave me $150. That was a lot of money back then in 50. It only cost $55 a semester to go to college. And 4 days after I graduated, I went to the Army, and he gave me a ride to the train station, which is no longer there. And I got out with my bag, which was a charcoal colored suit and a pink tie and an off pink shirt. That was the color back in 57. That was the color. Everybody, and he had spade shoes from Johnny Walker's. Spade shoes, it looks like a spade. And so I thanked him, and I picked up my bag, and he says, oh, here, by the way, take this, don't look at it until you get on the train. Well, of course, I don't listen to rules too much. And he drove off, and I looked at it, and it was the $150 IOU paid in full from him. So there are people with big, big, big hearts. Some of them are right here. So.
Well, I don't know. I feel like we talked about most of the things that we wanted to. Is there anything else you want to share, Al? Or otherwise, I might, if you feel open to questions, I might open it up for questions.
Before you open up, thank you very much, Sarah. You are the glue that holds us all together. And it's very nice.
Yeah. Well, what kinds of questions do folks have for Al? Anyone have any questions you want to ask?
Where's the tree gonna be?
The tree? Where's the tree going to be?
Yeah, where's it gonna be?
It's down in Florida. It's goes down, I think it goes down 8 feet on aluminum cylinders, so that in case if a tornado or a hurricane hits, it'll withstand some, I can't remember how fast the hurricane would be. And it's at a place like this where the residents can sit and enjoy the weather down in Florida. And they'll have that tree and the butterflies that'll wiggle when the breeze blows.
Where's what city?
I can't remember. I'm getting old. I'm sorry.
What is the main material that the trees, you said it was aluminum on the base.
All bronze.
Bronze.
The tree is bronze.
Bronze, wow. Is bronze an expensive material?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You go 15 times the weight of the wax. And that's how much it cost just to cast it. So all of those bronze pieces out there are under $700 or $800 to start with. So you don't give away too many of them at this stage of my life. So, any other questions? Oh, come on. I wear a size 5.5.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
I have one. Do you have the Tower of Babel yet, or did you sell it?
That purchased out of the state fair, and it's in New York, but it was purchased by a heart doctor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's just shy of 7 feet, and it squeaks when you turn it.
Oh, my. Alan, I went to Susie's funeral, and I think there were the most people there, and it was such a tribute to all of you. And we've been friends for a long time now. I really am glad I got here. I've seen your work everywhere.
Thank you.
I would agree. It's a joy to see your artwork popping up all over. You know, beauty shop
Yeah.
to here to the chalkboards. It's a gift that keeps on giving, Al.
Yeah,
It really is.
It is an outlet. It is an escape. No coloring books. I say that because a lot of you are grandparents, and don't do it. Right, Johnny?
Are you working on any projects?
Oh,
I just sent a painting to be framed for a very special person here at Shorehaven. And that's all I'm going to say. It's being framed. By the end of the week, there will be a blank canvas on the easel, and I'll start doing something with that. I love to push the clay. I love to push the paint. Yeah. I can't get that nice fine line anymore, Barb. So I scumble. And that's the right word, Johnny. Scumble. Anything else? I consider it an honor to share with you. Thank you very much. The treats are coming.
Yes, please.
Thank you.